Hey, everybody, welcome back to another accountability call here with the Former Athlete Society. As always, I'm Adam Ringler, and whether you're here live or watching the replay, I'm just generally glad that you're actually taking some time for yourself, showing up for yourself, and attending this Zoom call. So, I know firsthand how easy it is to feel, I don't know, unanchored maybe after your college athletic days, right? The structure's gone, the team's gone, the coach isn't texting you every single day, your strength coach isn't yelling at you. So today, we're going to dive in deep into five key areas, five, that you can really focus on and end up moving the needle for you, right? And that's going to be rebuilding some structure throughout your day, mastering your own nutrition plan, staying sharp in your training, protecting your mental health, and then lastly, thinking about the long term for your overall well being. So, that said, let's get into it. My first topic I want to talk about on this accountability call is how to rebuild structure without the team environment, without the weight room setting, without the locker room that you get to rally around. So, let's start with this today. I want to start with the story. A couple months ago, I caught up with one of my former athletes. Now, she was a standout volleyball player. She was our team captain, super type A personality, the kind of athlete that never misses a rep or shows up late, never had any disciplinary issues, nothing like that. But she felt like she was floating by, right? Post college athletics, she, again, like the captain of the team, but floating through life because there was no more morning practices, no film study, no nutrition station, just sort of kind of missed the mark as far as with that transition. And what she's told me, what she missed the most was the structure in her day. That day that had a rhythm to it. And back then it almost felt like a heartbeat that was pulsating, ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. Now, we talked about maybe how she could bring some of that rhythm back without needing someone to blow a whistle, right? She started with a simple calendar app. She color coded blocks for her workouts, different colors for her meals, different colors for her sleep. She even walked. And she called that her practice plan for life. I thought that was beautiful. I thought that was so simple and but elegant, right? You don't need anything fancy. What you ultimately need is just some consistency throughout your day. And if you can build your own version of that structure, even when it's somewhat loose, it becomes a lifeline. Now, think about your old practice schedule, right? Recreate that cadence for your current lifestyle. Maybe you have work 9 to 5, but within that 9 to 5 workday, maybe you could schedule some walks around the office, your meals where you sit at your desk and you actually get to eat a meal and sit down and have a moment. Maybe you schedule a mental health 5 minutes at the beginning of your day, at the end of the day, just to kind of recenter yourself. Think about how you can periodize out your day in a way that allows you to be more successful and to leverage maybe your capacity and your focus and your attention. So another example I think of is maybe waking up every at the same time every single day, right? Even on the weekends when you think, oh, maybe I should sleep in, but no, you wake up, right? Consistently at the same time. Maybe you're training at a consistent time every single day. You're eating your meals regularly at consistent times, right? You're scheduling wind down time. And I know it doesn't sound fancy, but all of these strategies are the glue that can kind of hold our day together. You can even recreate some of that team accountability. So message a former teammate and agree to text each other a picture of your completed workouts. I do that from time to time with the my old graduate assistants and assistant coaches that I've worked with, right? It's silly, but it works. And just knowing that somebody else is watching over you, right? Over your shoulder, watching your workouts, that helps keep you honest to what you say you're going to do. Now, the second thing I want to transition to is a sort of a nutrition without like a hardcore meal plan. And that's really the basis of so much about life is really centered around food, if you will. And back in college, it was probably easy. You could grab and go protein shakes from the fridge or from a fueling hub. You get catered meals. The dining hall had it all laid out like a performance buffet. You didn't even have to think when you went into the cafeteria. It was all laid out in a presentation style that sets you up for success. And now you're probably standing in the grocery store, you're staring at raw chicken or raw beef, and you're wondering, how do anybody has the energy to actually meal prep after working a long day, after working 40 hours, 50 hours a week? Now, I want to tell you about one of my baseball players that I used to work with. Now, and he was a jacked dude. He was huge, right? I think he was our catcher on our Wichita State baseball team a long time ago. And then after school, he actually lost like 30 pounds without even trying. But he didn't feel great about it. He felt weak. He felt tired. He felt foggy. And even though he felt like he was eating healthy, but in reality, what he was actually really doing was just skipping meals. He wasn't actually fueling his body the way he used to during college, right? Now, he messaged me a long time ago, and we sat down digitally together on a video call like this, and we just talked about a simple framework, not a diet, not a meal plan, just general guidelines about what we should be doing post college life to try to leverage eating healthier. So things like protein with every meal, eating something green every single day, really focusing on staying hydrated, like for real, not just like, oh, I drank a bottle of water when I thought about it, but actually really dedicated, focused hydration. We talked about limiting sort of ultra processed crap, right? Like he called it the vending machine vortex at his work. He'd walk by a vending machine every single time he went down the office, and it would just pull him in. He started actually batch cooking things like ground turkey and rice on Sundays. He got a lunchbox. I have mine on the floor in my office. Got a lunchbox with compartments. So he wasn't skipping meals. And within a few weeks, his energy came back. And guess what? So did his confidence, right? Food isn't just about macros, protein, fats, carbohydrates. It's about your mood. It's about your performance. It's kind of about your identity as a human being. So you used to eat like an athlete. You still can. You just have to write your own playbook now, because it's different when you're not training 20 hours a week, 30 hours a week, and preparing to win championships, right? Now, another thing I wanted to talk about is how to train without having a coach. Now, listen, you could hire me, right? This is my, I run a remote coaching business. That's what I do as well, right? So you could hire me. We could send you programs. We could do our weekly check-ins like we do. But if you didn't have that, how could you proceed? And I want to ask you something. When was the last time that you actually trained with great intent? Like focused, hardcore intent. Now, I'm not talking about just showing up and going through the motions in a commercial weight room or gym. I mean actually showing up with a goal, with a purpose, a plan to attack those things. Answer that, right? So no coach, no teammates in Planet Fitness or 24 Hours or Bally's Fitness. It's just you. And it's tough, right? Like to actually have to answer that and be honest with yourself. So let me tell you about one of the athletes I've worked with. This was back at Michigan State a long time ago. And she joined a regular gym. And from there, she quickly realized post-college life that she had no idea what to do without a squat rack, right? Without, like A, a squat rack, or B, her coach standing over her shoulder, i.e. me at that time, right? So what do you do when nobody is there to help coach you and direct you and guide you? So she did probably what everybody does. She started copying random influencer workouts from Instagram, right? One week it was like glute bands, and another week it was a 30-day plank challenge. No results, just frustration, week after week, month after month. So again, we sat down like I am doing right now, video camera in front of me, and we wrote out a basic 3-day full body lifting plan. Nothing fancy, right? Like squats, deadlifts, presses, progressive overload, over time, the basics, right? But the basics get the job done. And here's the kicker. She started actually writing down her workouts, right? She would write down her weights, her reps, her targets, what her target reps were. Like actually really focused on her journaling and what she wanted to accomplish during her workouts. And then, right, she wrote down how she felt, when she felt good, when she felt terrible. And that journal actually became her coach. So if you're struggling to stay consistent, I would say create a program that maybe mirrors what you did back in college, but it's dialed into your current reality. So maybe you're training for 45 minutes, not 2 hours. Maybe you're focusing on movement quality, not maxing and 1RMs and PRs and things like that you might have done during college. But here's the big picture thing. You have to track it, because tracking breeds progress, and progress really breeds motivation, right? When you can see it and you can progress in it and you can actually see the tangible progress, you will become way more motivated to continue to do it. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is it kind of centers around mental health, but it's more so about your identity after sports. So I think it's important to talk about this because here's the truth. Most people that I've worked with that's graduated and gone on and didn't play professionally, they feel like they've lost that athlete label. And when they do that, they feel like they lose a part of themselves. Now, I remember talking with one of my former basketball players. She didn't go on, she didn't play pro, she didn't play overseas. And she felt like a ghost in her own life. And people once knew her as like the hooper. She was the dude, if you will. And once the game stopped, so did the attention, and with it, the sense of purpose. So we had a long talk. I remember asking her, who are you outside of sports? Your identity was always basketball, but who are you now? And it's not an easy question to have to answer, but it's a really important one to really answer for yourself, not for another person. So you were disciplined, you were competitive, you were a leader, you were a teammate. And none of those things disappear just because your eligibility is now exhausted. So she got into youth coaching, right? It gave her some new purpose. She was still part of the game, just in a very different role, no longer as an athlete, but as a coach. And you might not want to coach, and that's okay. I'm not suggesting everybody has to go into coaching by any means. But find something that maybe taps into the same qualities of the game. And it could be a job, it could be art, it could be building a business, whatever, right? And listen, like, quite frankly, therapy, I want to put this out there. Therapy isn't a weakness. It's a tool, just like the weight room's a tool. If you're feeling lost, I'd say find somebody to talk to about it, because honestly, that can make all of the difference, right? Just sharing, communicating, working through and navigating what is tough in life, right? Now, the last shift on this accountability call that I want to talk about is long-term wellness, right? Health and wellness. And I want to talk about the long game with what we're doing in life. Because guess what? Like, you're still an athlete, but now your opponent isn't Stanford or Arizona or Cal. It's time. Now, at one point in time, I had one of my athletes, and they're mid 30s now, and they came back to me with chronic knee pain. And what was communicated to me was that I used to just grind through pain. It was no big deal. I could make it. I'm tough. That's my identity. And I remember telling her, yeah, that philosophy made you maybe short-sighted, because we had to rewire her mindset a little bit. It wasn't about how hard she could go anymore. It was about how long she could stay in this game of training for life, right? The long-term approach. And so that said, it meant doing things differently. It meant prioritizing sleep. It meant learning recovery techniques. It meant addressing mobility and doing stuff that she used to skip because she thought it was soft. And now she trains 6 days a week. She sleeps like a baby. She plays pickup basketball with her children, right? That's cool. I love that. I love hearing that. That's the goal. That's what we want, right? You don't want to peak at 19. You don't want to peak at 20. You want to be able to be 60 years old, 70 years old, and still be able to hike, swim, travel, move freely. So you need to start thinking about trying to treat your body like something you're going to need for decades. Because the reality is, you are going to need it for decades. So that means doing things differently, right? That means getting regular health checkups. I'm sorry, that's not fun to talk about, but it's necessary, right? Blood work and physicals and checking in with your primary care physician. It means staying curious about new training methodologies and ways to train. It means continuing to learn because your brain is a muscle just as much as anything else. And it ultimately means keep growing, keep getting better, keep finding ways to challenge yourself. I think if you do those things, you're training for the lifespan. All right. Looking at the clock right now, here we are. We're 20 some minutes into this. I think that's going to be it for today. If you took nothing else from this call, I want you to remember this one thing. You didn't lose your edge, not at all. You just need to find a new place to live. Not physically live. You can live in California or Michigan or Colorado like me. But you have to show up for yourself like you used to show up for your team. You have to find some rhythm. You have to eat for fuel. You have to train with intent. You have to protect your mind. And ultimately, you got to play the long game. Now, in this journey that is training for life, if you ever need help, if you ever need guidance, if you just need somebody to listen to, that's why this community exists, right? I built it for this one reason. I'm here for you, right? The Former Athlete Society is here for you. All right, go attack the week. I have a question and answer call this upcoming Thursday at 9 a.m. So if you got questions, bring them to the call. There's a Zoom link if you're a Former Athlete Society member, which you can join at adamringler.com, right? There's portals, there's links everywhere throughout the video. You can join at that website. And if you're a member, you can attend live. And if you attend live, you can get to ask your questions one-on-one in live. Now, if you're not, you can still email me, right? So you can go to my website, you can submit your questions there, and I will answer all of our community membership questions that come in live on the next call, 9 a.m. Thursday. I will see you there. Thanks, everybody. Stay strong, stay healthy, stay safe, keep attacking the week.